Hello, Kentucky. This is a bit strange, but let's go. ESPN has placed Kentucky out of the group of favorites for the national title. Did you see? Let's get to the news. But first, subscribe to the channel to receive more news about the Wildcats. ESPN's decision to leave Kentucky out of the group of favorites for the national title for the 2025-26 season is, at the very least, questionable and causes bewilderment in any fan attentive to college basketball. When you analyze the history of the program, the strength of the current roster, and the promising signs shown in the first preseason games, it's difficult to understand how the Wildcats weren't included among the teams with the greatest potential to lift the NCAA tournament trophy. The ranking proposed by ESPN divides the teams into categories based on maximum potential for the season, placing Purdue, Florida, Houston, and UConn as the main contenders for the title. Kentucky, in turn, was relegated to the Final Four contenders category, alongside teams like BYU, St. John's, Louisville, and Duke. While reaching the Final Four is a remarkable feat, the Wildcats' absence among the title favorites seems to disregard crucial elements that strengthen their chances of winning the championship. One of the arguments presented by Jeff Borzello and Myron Metcalf is that the return of Jaden Quaintance, transferred from Arizona State and considered one of the most talented players in the NBA draft, could elevate Kentucky to the status of a favorite. However, this raises a question: why wait? The immediate impact of reinforcements like Quaintance and others is already visible, even though the team is still in formation. The idea that Kentucky needs to prove more to be considered a title contender sounds inconsistent when we observe their dominant performance against the number 1 ranked Purdue last Friday. Yes, it was an exhibition game, but the level of superiority demonstrated by the Wildcats was undeniable. Even with several key players missing and facing a determined opponent, Kentucky controlled the game from start to finish. Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, and Trey Kaufman-Renn, stars of the Boilermakers, played significant minutes trying to lead their team to victory, but they were no match for the intensity and tactical organization of the Wildcats. Any impartial spectator would leave that game convinced that Kentucky deserves to be among the best, and therefore, among the favorites for the title. Furthermore, the roster building under Mark Pope is another factor that deserves highlighting. The arrival of Otega Oweh, elected SEC Player of the Year in the preseason, coupled with the investment in talents like Quaintance, demonstrates that Kentucky is committed to assembling a team capable of competing at a high level both offensively and defensively. The KenPom, one of the most respected metrics in college basketball, already ranks the Wildcats among the top 10 teams in both offense and defense, an essential balance for those aiming to win 6 consecutive games in the NCAA tournament. ESPN's analysis also seems to underestimate the value of the experience and competitive mindset that Pope has instilled in the group. After a transitional first year, the coach has shown that he is shaping a resilient, cohesive team capable of facing challenges. The ability to maintain consistency on both sides of the court is a rare characteristic, and Kentucky seems to have found that balance. It's important to remember that we're talking about Kentucky, a program whose history and culture are synonymous with success in college basketball. The Wildcats have 8 national titles and a tradition of excellence that transcends individual seasons. Ignoring this heritage and the team's current momentum seems like a slip-up on the part of Borzello and Metcalf. Of course, there's still much to be proven throughout the regular season and subsequent tournaments. But to say that Kentucky doesn't deserve to be among the favorite for the national title after what has been seen so far is, at the very least, an incomplete assessment. If the team continues to evolve and maintains the level shown against Purdue, it will be difficult to imagine the Wildcats out of the conversation about who can lift the trophy in Indianapolis. Into your feedback. Pene's later race. Historico. Salvas. Coach Mark Stoops has faced this dilemma with a mix of determination and pragmatism after the crushing defeat to Tennessee, a result that unfortunately has become almost an annual tradition in this one-sided rivalry. Stoops was questioned about the weaknesses exposed by his roster, especially in the secondary. Without mincing words, he admitted that we did the best we could in assembling the team for 2025. This statement reflects not only the reality of a program under construction, but also the increasing pressure on Stoops to deliver more tangible results on the field. Stoops' approach to facing challenges head-on is admirable. He never tried to use injuries as the main excuse for the poor performance against the Vols, even though they were a significant factor. The secondary, initially seen as one of the team's strengths, was devastated by important losses. Terrion Nichols and DJ Waller, two key players, were out of action, forcing the coach to seek improvised solutions. Nasir Addison, a junior with little experience beyond special teams, had to step onto the field at crucial moments. Rookie Grant Grayton was also thrust into the spotlight after difficult episodes involving bullying against Kevy's Thomas, a transfer from Maryland. These examples illustrate how a lack of roster depth can quickly turn a season into a survival exercise. Stoops knows the problem goes beyond injuries. When asked if these circumstances led him to rethink his roster-building strategy, he was honest. Definitely, the coach said. He acknowledged that while he is promising young players at the position, there's still a significant gap. You need a solid roster with two options at the position. You need 4 or 5 players. This comment reveals a clear awareness of Kentucky's current limitations, but also points to a bigger problem. Were the available budget and strategic decisions sufficient to build a competitive team? According to Stoops, Kentucky invested heavily in the trenches and the wide receiver position, areas where he believes there has been significant progress. I think you can see, I hope you can, and that everyone can see that we've definitely improved in certain areas, he stated. However, he also acknowledged that the win-loss record doesn't yet reflect those improvements. I understand that we're not complete yet. And if you look at our record, and I'm not naive about this, but we're definitely better and progressing. Revenue sharing within the SEC has helped Kentucky attract new talent, but the impact of these changes takes time to be fully felt. Stoops argues that rebuilding a roster is a process that requires at least 2 or 3 years to generate consistent results. Yes, you analyze, you evaluate the situation every year, and hopefully you correct some flaws. You don't need to correct all the flaws. This long-term vision is commendable, but also contrasts with the reality of their regional rivals. Indiana is poised to qualify for the CFP for the second consecutive time under Curt Cignetti, while Louisville reached the Atlantic Conference Final in Jeff Brohm's first season, both programs that also saw significant transfers. For Kentucky, the patience of fans and administrators may be reaching its limit. Even in the face of difficulties, there are reasons for optimism. One of the positive highlights of 2025 was how Kentucky identified and developed talent coming from high school. Players like Cutter Boley and DJ Miller proved that the program still has the capacity to attract promising young players and quickly integrate them into the starting lineup. Boley, in particular, has been breaking records for freshman passes and showing impressive maturity for someone in his first season. Against Tennessee, Miller had 5 receptions for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, a remarkable performance for a freshman in his second college game. Jason Patterson also stood out, leading the team in receptions and demonstrating versatility by accumulating yards both through the air and on the ground. Stoops acknowledges that relying so heavily on freshmen can be risky, but he also sees value in this approach. These guys have stepped up, We're better because of them. He believes that the balance between veterans and young talent is crucial for the program's future. However, the coach also knows that this transition needs to start bearing fruit soon. We'll see. Envy your feedback. Payne's later race. Historico. Salvas. Speculation surrounding John Sumrall's future as a possible new head coach at Kentucky has intensified behind the scenes of college football, but the current Tulane Green Wave coach doesn't seem willing to be distracted by rumors or external pressures. In a firm and thoughtful statement, Sumrall reiterated that any decision about his future will only be made at the end of the season, when the time is most appropriate to assess all variables. "We'll make decisions at the end of the year," he said, leaving no room for hasty interpretations. This stance demonstrates not only his dedication to his current job, but also a deep sense of loyalty to the program he has led since 2021. Sumrall is in his second season at the helm of Tulane, and the numbers speak for themselves. An impressive overall record of 38-10, including 15-6 in the city of New Orleans. Under his leadership, the Green Wave has transformed into a competitive and respected team, capable of even dreaming of playoff spots in college football. This success inevitably attracts the attention of larger programs, such as Kentucky, which faces increasing challenges under Mark Stoops amidst a frustrating SEC season. However, Sumrall has been emphatic in stating that his priority is to maintain focus on the present, avoiding distractions that could compromise his team's performance. Since the beginning of the preseason, Sumrall has adopted a proactive approach to dealing with the inevitable conversations about transfers, promotions, and outside opportunities. He brought in special guests, including figures like Kellen Moore, coach of the New Orleans Saints, and even financial advisors, to help his players understand the new reality of the sport, shaped by the NIL and the revenue split. In an era where athletes are paid and agents are constantly in their ear promoting changes, Sumrall recognizes that this scenario can be both a blessing and a source of distraction. For him, the secret lies in managing these conversations transparently, but at appropriate times. "Let's think about that at the end of the year," he told his players. "Don't bring it to me now." This philosophy applies not only to the athletes, but also to himself. Sumrall was clear in stating that, although offers from other programs have come up in the past, and will likely come up again in the future, he is not seeking a promotion solely for status or salary. "If my ultimate goal was just to be a head coach at a Power 4 university, I wouldn't be at Tulane. I've had those opportunities," he revealed. "If my ultimate goal was just to get the highest salary, I wouldn't be at Tulane. Other people have offered me more money than I earn here." His words reflect an uncommon mindset in the hyper-competitive world of college football, that the right place isn't necessarily the one with the highest prestige or pay, but rather the one where you feel fulfilled and aligned with your values. For Sumrall, Tulane represents more than a job. It's a personal and professional project. He expressed his love for the city of New Orleans and the unique culture surrounding the program. "In 25 years, can I say I'll be here coaching? I don't know, but I wouldn't be angry about it. I'm calm," he stated. His passion for what he does is evident, and he has worked tirelessly to build something lasting at Green Wave. Still, he doesn't completely rule out the possibility of a change of scenery in the future, especially if an opportunity arises that truly resonates with his ambitions and principles. "When the time comes to reassess my position next season, I will," he said, leaving the door open but without making any hasty commitments. The criticism on social media and speculation about his future don't seem to affect him. Sumrall is immersed in his current job, focusing on winning one game at a time and guiding Tulane toward ambitious goals. He knows the college football scene is unforgiving and that there will always be external pressures, but his ability to stay focused and avoid distractions is admirable. When questioned about the constant speculation, his answer is simple and direct. Leave me alone. For Kentucky, the interest in Sumrall makes sense. He is a young, energetic, and provenly successful coach, characteristics that could revitalize a program seeking new directions. However, attracting Sumrall to Lexington could be a complicated task, considering his clear preference to remain at Tulane as long as he feels fulfilled there. Furthermore, any change will depend on the final results of the current season and the decisions that will be made after the championship ends. Leave your opinion.